Okay, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to make some notes on a Delta Math video for a Delta Math assignment that deals with solving quadratics in Vertex form. So we're going to solve quadratics in Vertex form. We did it last assignment we did. We solved them using when we factored them or using the quadratic equation. This is when they're written in Vertex form. The first thing, just remember what we said before. Solving means get x all by itself. Okay, so that's the first thing that you got to know. The next thing you got to know is when you're solving an equation with x squared in it, you got to do the following, okay? So if you have x squared is equal to 4, what you do is you take the square root of both sides, but you have to do the square root of 4 and you have to do negative square root of 4. Okay, so you have to do the positive square root of 4 and you have to do the negative square root of 4. Some people do plus or minus the square root of 4. Some people kind of put this together. You'll hear teachers do this. I'm going to kind of separate them and keep them separate. Now the reason that's true is x could equal 2 and x can equal negative 2. So think about going back into that original equation. If we put 2 in for x and we square it, we get 4. If we put negative 2 in for x, we get negative 2 times negative 2, which is also 4. So that's why you have to, whenever you take the square root of both sides, you need the positive and the negative. So when taking the square root of both sides of an equation, you need the positive and the negative. You can't just have one. You got to have both. Okay? Any quadratic is going to have two answers. You need the positive one and you need the negative one. Okay. So let me do a couple of examples. And I'm just going to run through some examples that will follow similar to the ones that you have to do on Delta Math. So you should copy these down. So example 2, I think, because I think I just wrote that this was example 1. So we'll write example 2. And the directions are for you to solve the following equation. 2x plus 1 squared equals 25. So the first thing we have to do is we're going to take the square root of both sides. If we take the square root of both sides, we have 2x plus 1 equals the square root of 25, and 2x plus 1 equals negative square root of 25. So we got to separate it into two different problems. If we have it like this, then we can just start to solve it. Remember that the square root of 25 is equal to 5. So we can write this as 2x. I'll pick a new color. Each time I'll do it in a new color so you see what I'm doing. 2x plus 1 equals 5. And 2x plus 1 equals negative 5. So the next thing we're going to do is add 1 to both sides. So 2x is equal, or subtract 1 is equal to 4. And 2x is equal to negative 5. So now we're going to divide by 2. So if we divide by 2, we'd have x is equal to 2 and x is equal to negative 5 over 2. When you put that into delta math, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to put in 2, and then over here on the side, you're going to see two little buttons. You're going to see a positive and a negative. Hit this one, and then suddenly what will happen is there will be a bracket that shows up here, a comma, and then another bracket that shows up here, and that's where you want to put in the negative 5 over 2. So hitting that little button right here will insert this, and it'll insert this, and it'll allow you to do more than one answer. So keep that in mind as you're entering the answers in, because both answers work, and you need both answers. Okay, so let's look at the next example. Let's look at example 3. Example 3, I want to do solve x plus 4 squared minus 6 equals 3. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add 6 to both sides. So I get x plus 4 squared is equal to 9. Here's where I'm going to take the square root of both sides. So I'm going to write x plus 4 is equal to the square root of 9, and x plus 4 equals negative square root of 9. It equals both of those. So now we can square root of 9, remember, from past math classes, the square root of 9 is equal to 3. 3 times 3 is 9, so the square root of 9 is 3. So if we keep this going, we have x plus 4 equals 3, and x plus 4 equals negative 3. So if we continue on to this, get our answers, x can equal negative 1, and x can equal negative 7. So again, you're going to have to use that button and put in both answers just like we did in the last example. So make sure you know that, that you have to use this thing. You have to use this button right here for delta math. You got to use that deal. Okay. Now let's look at the next example. The next one is we're going to simplify. So let me write this down. Let's see. I think this is example 4 now. And we're going to simplify. Actually, we're going to solve one more. We're going to solve 4x plus 2 I think what I want to do, actually, oh, we can do this. 4x plus 2 squared plus 1 equals 6. Okay, so let's solve this one. So the first thing we're going to do on this is we are going to subtract 1. So we're going to have 4x plus 2 squared is equal to 5. And because I just subtracted 1. So if we keep this going, 4x plus 2 can equal the square root of 5. And 4x plus 2 can equal negative square root of 5. Now, the square root of 5 is an irrational number. It's a number when you put it into a calculator, it'll go on forever and never repeat itself. So we're just going to leave it as a square root of 5. We're going to work with it as a square root of 5. So if we're on this side, we're going to have 4x is equal to negative 2 plus the square root of 5. And over here, we're going to have 4x is equal to negative 2 minus the square root of 5. Then if we divide by 4, we're going to have x is equal to negative 2 plus the square root of 5. And that's all on the top, divided by 4. And we're going to have x is equal to negative 2 minus the square root of 5. That's all on top, divided by 4. So you got to put both answers in. All right. Next example is simplify. I can't remember if I'm going to have you do this. I know you have to do this on the assignment, but it might be simplify. So we'll call this example. I don't know what number we're on here. Example 4. So we're going to call this example 5. Example 5. And we're going to simplify two different things. We're going to simplify the square root of negative 7 and the square root of negative 9. Now, those are imaginary numbers because you can't really figure out what two numbers multiply together to get negative 7. That doesn't make any sense, right? I mean, you think about like a question like the square root of 9 is somewhere there are two numbers, or there is just a number. There is a number that multiplies by itself to get 9. Well, that's 3 or negative 3 would both do that. So that's that. Well, you think about this next one, you'd have to have two numbers that multiply together to get negative 7. There aren't two numbers that multiply by itself to get negative 7. You know, two numbers that multiply by itself, if one was negative, well, then it'd be a negative times a negative. So you don't do that. So what we do is we use a thing called I. It's an imaginary number. It's used in electrical engineering. We'll use it later on this year. But the square root of square root of negative 7 is equal to I times the square root of 7. So if a negative is inside a square root, we just separate it by pulling the negative out as I. So this one over here then would be I times the square root of 9. Well, the square root of 9 is 3. So this is I times 3 or 3I. So just think about that and use those when you have to do your when you have to do those problems on Delta Math. So I think I have one more example. I think this is the last example. We're going to call it example 6, and it's going to be solve. And it's going to be 5 times 3x minus 1 squared equals 125. So to solve this one, the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to divide by 5. So then I would have 3x minus 1 squared is equal to 25 if I divide by 5. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do that square root thing. So now I'm going to have 3x minus 1 is equal to the square root of 25, and 3x minus 1 equals negative square root of 25. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 1 to both sides. So if I do that, I get 3x minus 1 equals 5, and 3x minus 1 equals negative 5. Now I'll add 1 to both sides, so I'd have 3x is equal to 4. Or whoops, not 4. 3x is equal to 6, and 3x is equal to negative 4 if I add 1 to both sides. So now to finalize this answer, x is going to equal to 6 over 3, or x is equal to 2 on this one, or x is going to equal negative 4 over 3, and we can't simplify that. So you'd have to put that in as 2. Go back and look at all these notes. If you're having trouble, ask me for help. Thanks.